My phone buzzed 22 times in 60 minutes. My daughter kept a tally on her beach towel, thinking it was some kind of game. I was 400 kilometers from home, my toes buried in the soft, warm sand of a quiet coastal inlet, watching my son try to build a sandcastle big enough to keep the tide out. My mother was stuck in a hotel parking lot near a crowded tourist beach, and my sister was berating a front desk clerk over a reservation that had already been cancelled. But I didn't know any of that at that moment. All I knew was the heat of the sun, the salty breeze, and the feeling that for the first time in years, I'd chosen my own little family over the crushing weight of their expectations. Those 22 calls, and the chaos they represented, were just the final act of a drama that had been building for months. Let me take you back to where it all began. Welcome back to Quiet Justice Tales. I'm Elena, a 34-year-old accounts manager for a small dental practice just outside a mid-sized city. This is the story of how my sister manipulated our mother into uninviting me and my children from a family vacation, and the spectacular collapse that followed when they tried to pay for it with money that was already gone. If you've ever been the one who held everything together only to be treated like an afterthought, I want you to stick around. I worked for Dr. Harrison's dental clinic on Maple Avenue, right next to the old pharmacy. Accounts manager, making about $50,000 a year. Nothing flashy, but enough. My job was to manage patient ledgers, handle insurance claims, and make sure the practice's numbers stayed in the black so the dentist could focus on teeth. I was meticulous. Numbers are honest. They don't manipulate you. They don't make you feel guilty at Christmas dinner. My apartment was 9 minutes from the clinic, 11 from my daughter's elementary school, and 17 from my son's preschool if I hit the traffic light on Cedar Street. Mia was 8, and Leo was 5. Their father had left when Leo was only a few months old. He's not part of this narrative, and I'd rather keep it that way. My daily routine was a military operation. I was up at 5:30 a.m., packing 2 lunches, one with almond butter and strawberry jam for Mia, the other with ham and cheese for Leo, because he'd refused anything with seeds since he was a toddler. School drop-offs, clinic by 7:45, after school pickup at 5:15, home, dinner, bath, stories, and then sleep to do it all over again. I kept a budget on a spreadsheet that had more columns than some businesses. I was a master of coupons, and I always filled my gas tank on a Wednesday because the station down the street offered a 5-cent discount. Every month, I stashed $150 into a separate savings account for travel, an account I pretended didn't exist until the summer rolled around. I was careful with money. It was a necessity, not a choice. But the strange thing about being financially responsible in my family is that it turned me into a target. People don't look down on you for being broke, they resent you for being careful. For having an emergency fund when they don't. For saying no when they're hoping for a yes. My father was the only one who got it, the only one who never made me feel bad for being the responsible one. My dad passed away 4 years ago, sitting in a hospital bed with tubes and monitors. He was a tradesman, a plumber who'd spent 40 years fixing pipes under old houses. He was in his early 60s but looked twice his age, his hands calloused and strong from a life of hard work. I was 30. My sister, Diana, was 35. We stood on opposite sides of his bed like 2 strangers waiting for a train. He looked at me. "Elena, you're going to have to take care of things," he said. He meant the finances, the life insurance, Mom's bills, the house, all of it. He pulled a worn manila envelope from under his pillow. He'd had a nurse bring it from his truck. It contained his life insurance policy, Mom's bank details, and a handwritten list of monthly bills. "Keep the lights on for your mama. That's all I'm asking." I took the envelope. My hands were trembling. His, remarkably, were not. Diana watched from the window, her face a mask of stone. She didn't say a word in that hospital room. She waited until we were in the elevator. Then, in the silence of the descending car, her face twisted. She pulled out her phone, and a moment later, my pocket buzzed. I read the text in the parking garage. "Dad always liked you best. Enjoy your little promotion." I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just breathing. I wasn't surprised by her reaction. It was the inevitability of it that stung. The real reason Dad picked me was because he knew Diana couldn't be trusted with a checkbook. She'd bounced checks and borrowed money from him she'd never repaid. He loved her, but he didn't trust her. A few months later, on a stormy October Tuesday, he passed away. The life insurance paid out $85,000. I sat at my kitchen table with a calculator and a pad of paper, doing exactly what he asked. I paid off his medical bills, fixed the roof on my mother's house that was leaking, and bought a new water heater. After all that, I had about $24,000 left. I put $22,000 of it in a savings account for my mother, an untouchable emergency fund. The rest went to pay for the funeral flowers and food, because Diana had promised to handle the catering and then, predictably, didn't. From that point on, I set up a $350 monthly transfer into my mother's account, the first of every month, like clockwork. Her Social Security was only $1,300 a month. It covered the basics, barely. Diana didn't contribute a cent. I have my own family to worry about, she'd say. She had a nice house and a luxury car. Her family seemed to be doing just fine. But Diana had one thing I didn't: leverage. She had 2 kids, my mom's only grandchildren on that side. Her favorite line was a thinly veiled threat. "If you keep inviting Elena, we won't be able to come," she'd say, as if it were a simple logistical matter. My mother stopped inviting me for weekend dinners. I realized what was happening when Mia asked why Grandma only wanted to see her on Wednesdays. I didn't have a good answer. I just adjusted my schedule and kept sending that $350 check every month. A family tradition since I was a child was the annual summer beach trip to a quiet barrier island. Same little bungalows with screened porches and sand that found its way into every crevice. My dad would load the car at dawn, my mom would pack enough sunscreen for a small army, and Diana and I would argue over who got the front seat until we fell asleep, exhausted. It was the one week a year we didn't fight about money. My dad paid for everything. When he died, the tradition should have ended, but I couldn't let it go. Mia loved the tide pools, and Leo had been going since he was a baby. So I kept it going. I booked the rentals, organized the grocery runs, packed the car, and I paid. The previous summer, the cost for 2 cabins for 4 nights was over $2,300. I covered $1,900 of it. Diana finally Venmo'd me $400, and it was 2 months late and only after I'd asked 3 times. My mom paid nothing. I didn't complain. I told myself I was doing it for my kids. That's what you tell yourself when you're carrying the weight for people who don't even say thank you. I had that travel savings account. I put $150 into it every single month. By the spring, it had just over $2,700 in it. It was separate, untouched, and waiting. That was the summer before this summer. This year, my sister had a different plan. It started 3 months before the summer, on a dreary March afternoon. Diana's ex-husband, Derek, was dropping off the kids. He was in his early 40s, drove a beat-up pickup truck, and was in commercial flooring sales. They'd been divorced for a couple of years, the messy kind where they still communicated through passive-aggressive texts. His daughter, Chloe, hopped out first. His son, Ethan, followed, dragging his backpack. Derek leaned against his truck. "You know Elena turned me down for that $4,500 loan, right? He'd asked me to lend him money for a business idea the previous fall. I said no. Politely, clearly, and definitively. He hadn't forgotten." Diana folded her arms. "She turned you down because she's greedy. Always has been." Derek looked at the house. "Your mom still has access to Elena's bank account, right?" Diana hesitated. "So, book the trip. Use that card. Elena owes the family for sitting on Dad's money like it's hers." Diana paused for 3 seconds. It was a long pause. A pause where conscience might have intervened. It didn't. She does owe us, Diana said. I was at home that evening helping Mia with her math homework. I had no idea what was being plotted, but the plan was already in motion, and my name was attached to the bill. Chloe's 11th birthday party, late April. Mom's house. The dogwoods were in bloom, and a banner across the porch read "Happy Birthday, Chloe," in glittering letters. I brought 24 cupcakes, chocolate with strawberry frosting. Mia and Leo were with me. The party was fine for the first hour. Kids in the yard, my mom grilling, a neighbor from church sitting on the porch. Then Diana pulled me into the kitchen. She closed the door, crossed her arms, and got right to it. I need to tell you something about the summer trip. I waited. We've decided to go to the big resort in Hilton Head this year. Me, Mom, and the kids. I waited again, a knot forming in my stomach. Your kids aren't coming. My kids don't want them there. The words were cold, calculated, and flat. I looked past her, through the doorway. My mother was standing in the living room, holding a debit card between her fingers. My debit card. The emergency card I'd left with her for groceries or doctor visits. Why do you have my card, Mom? My mother looked from me to Diana. Diana said she needed it for the booking, my mom said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. The neighbor was in the living room, she saw everything. I nodded once. Keep it, I said. Then I called my kids, picked up the leftover cupcake box, and we left. The drive home was quiet. From the back seat, Mia's small voice broke the silence. Why did we leave early, Mom? I looked in the rearview mirror at her. Sometimes adults just need a little space, sweetie. She accepted it. Kids are like that. They trust the answers you give them. You just have to hope they don't remember the question later. When I got home, I sat on my bed with my phone and opened my banking app. A month earlier, I'd spotted a $350 withdrawal from my checking account that I hadn't made. I'd called my mom. She said she must have used the wrong card at the pharmacy and promised to pay it back. But I checked further back. 2 more withdrawals over the previous 2 months, $90 at a gas station, $110 at Target, and $55 at a restaurant. That was 2 weeks before the birthday party. The next morning, I'd called the bank to remove my mother as an authorized user. The representative said I needed both parties present or a notarized form, which could take up to 10 business days. I didn't have the patience. So the following morning, I drove to a different credit union across town and opened a brand new checking account and a brand new savings account. I transferred everything, $2,700 from the travel account and $1,500 from my primary checking. The old account was left with a mere $13 in it, with a card still in my mother's purse. I told no one. Here's the brutal truth about money and family: the moment someone treats your bank card as if it's their own, they're not just keeping it safe. They're keeping you on a leash. If you've ever had to move your money to reclaim your freedom, hit the like button right now, because this story is far from over. 2 weeks later, a Sunday dinner at Mom's. Fried chicken, canned green beans, and cheap rolls. Diana was in a particular mood I recognized, the one that signals she's gotten exactly what she wanted. She pulled out her phone before the plates were even cleared. Look at this, she said, turning the screen toward Mom. It was the Hilton Head Resort, complete with pristine white balconies, a turquoise swimming pool, and a whole slideshow of photos. 4 nights, ocean view, including a kids' club. The total price, $3,400. Diana scrolled through the photos of the seafood buffet and the dolphin cruise. My mom smiled. That looks just beautiful, honey. Diana set the phone down and looked at me. It was a look of pure, unadulterated satisfaction. You can't afford this anyway, she said with a sharp laugh. Leo, who was sitting next to me, looked up. Are we going to the beach, Mommy? The table went silent. We'll have our own special adventure, buddy, I said. I didn't respond to Diana. I didn't give her the fight she was craving. I simply washed the dishes, dried them, and put them away. That night, at 11:30 p.m., after Mia and Leo were asleep, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and a cold cup of coffee. I typed "Quiet Beach Town Vacation Family" into the search bar. I found a small place called Sunset Cove, 20 minutes south of Savannah. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't trying to impress anyone, it was just sand, water, and a porch to relax on. The Sunset Cove had a room for the last week of June for $85 a night. It wasn't a full ocean view, but you could see a sliver of blue between the other buildings. 4 nights, $340 for the room. I grabbed a notepad and started calculating. Room, $340. Gas, about $250 round trip. Food for a few days, cooking in the small kitchenette, $280. Activities, like a kayak rental or maybe a dolphin tour, $150. The total came to roughly $1,020. My new account had $2,700. I booked it right there. The confirmation email arrived seconds later. I screenshotted it and saved it in a file on my phone labeled Summer. I grabbed a sticky note, wrote the beach on it, and stuck it on the fridge. No dates, no details, no specifics. I've learned how information travels in my family. I didn't learn the full extent of Diana's scheme until after everything imploded. People talk. Derek had told a friend at his gym. That friend's wife knew the woman who was at the party. A few weeks later, over lemonade on her porch, the neighbor told me the whole story. Behind the curtain, here's what happened. Diana booked the Hilton Head Resort in early April. She put down an $800 deposit on her own credit card. The remaining $2,600 was due 3 days before check-in. She had zero intention of paying it herself. Elena's card will cover the rest, she told my mom over the phone. She owes us for years of not pulling her weight. My mom paused. She likely did what she always does, pressed her lips together, looked at the floor, and chose not to argue. Are you sure that's right? My mom asked. She left the card with you. That's permission enough, Diana said, her voice steady and sure. It wasn't permission, of course. Leaving an emergency card with your elderly mother for emergencies isn't a blank check for a luxury resort. But Diana had already decided what the card meant, and my mom had already decided not to fight. Derek texted Diana that night, smart move. She'll never know until it's done. Diana replied with a thumbs up emoji. $2,600, 3 days before check-in, set to be charged to a debit card connected to an account with $13 in it. They didn't know that yet, but I did. At work, things were busy. Springtime in a dental clinic meant everyone was trying to use their insurance before the year rolled over. I liked being busy. It made the hours fly. I was reconciling a stack of insurance forms when Dr. Harrison leaned in my office door. She was in her late 50s, silver-haired, and had the steady, calming energy of someone who'd been in practice for 30 years. You seem lighter lately, she observed. I looked up. Just looking forward to the summer. She nodded and walked back to her exam room. Lighter. It was exactly the right word. I felt like I'd set down a heavy piece of luggage I'd been carrying for so long I'd forgotten how much it weighed. At 5:15, I picked up the kids. Leo was chattering about a caterpillar he'd found. 3 blocks from home, the car went quiet. That's how I know when something is wrong. Mia gets quiet the way the air gets still before a thunderstorm. Cousin Chloe said we can't go on the trip because we're not real family anymore, she said softly. I stopped at the sign on Oak Street, holding the brake a beat too long. Who told Chloe that, honey? Aunt Diana, Mia said. I gripped the steering wheel. I counted to 3. Mia, you are my family, the realest family I know, and we're going on our own special trip. Leo's head popped up from the back seat. With dolphins? He asked. Maybe with dolphins, I said, catching his eye in the mirror. What Diana had told her daughter about mine, that was the line. You cross it, and there's no polite way to come back. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat on the couch with my phone and opened my banking app. The auto transfer to my mom's account was staring at me from the recurring payment screen, $350, the first of every month, for 4 years. That was nearly $17,000. I'd kept my mom's lights on, her prescription co-pays covered, and her fridge stocked, while Diana drove a leased luxury car and told my daughter she wasn't a real part of the family. I pressed cancel. A pop-up asked if I was sure. I pressed confirm. My hands were steady. My mom had her Social Security and the $22,000 I'd saved for her. She was okay. Not as comfortable as she was with my extra $350, but okay. Diana lived 10 minutes away. She could cover the groceries for a change. I wrote a short email, "Mom, I've had to adjust my finances. The monthly transfer will be stopping. I love you." I sent it. She called within 2 minutes. "What am I supposed to do now?" Her voice had that frantic pitch. "You have savings, Mom. And Diana lives right down the street." "Diana has her own expenses," she said. "So do I, Mom." Silence filled the line. "I can't believe you do this to me." "I'm not doing anything to you, Mom. I'm just not doing it for you anymore." She hung up. 20 minutes later, Diana texted me, "What did you do?" "Mom is crying." I read it, put my phone face down on the counter, washed the dishes, folded the laundry, and went to bed, sleeping more soundly than I had in months.